There's a preconceived notion of what wicked is.
Pink goes good with green.
Goes well with green.
It so does.
It was necessary for me to acknowledge that, but give it a different vision. I felt empowered to really explode into a world that is really reflective of how I use costume to tell stories. I studied dance when I was in high school, and it's always been part of the way that I see fabric and clothing and what happens when it's moving, and how clothing and costumes become an extension of movement. It is a world of contrasts. The color palette for Elphaba is black. I use a lot of pleating and felting. I wanted to align her with the animal world. And with Glinda, it's much more about curves, softness, and femininity. There's a lot of pink.
Please.
A world without worry. Because the story is about diversity, is about how we see people in a new and inclusive way, I was greatly affected by modern fashion, how people dress in the street, how people identify themselves, what they choose to wear in order to be reflective of how they identify. When you see the world of shiz and how young students are dressing, and you compare that to how young students are dressing today in our culture, but to make that a fantasy world, a fantasy silhouette, it was important to create a world that had a newness, had a quality of exploration, and definitely had a quality of self-expression.
1, 2, 3!
That was it. That was it.
And it's perfect.
Sweet Oz. Am I not the most scandalocious little fish in the sea?
I am so lucky to be working with Paul Tazewell. It's great to work with an artist that has the room to really create and isn't just trying to serve, but is trying to think of the story and the emotion of every scene that we're doing and creating costumes that accordingly present that story. If Elphaba's feeling lonely and out of place, how do you dress everybody so she feels out?
Elphaba, she is seen literally as an outsider. She has made a choice when her mother passed away to draw towards black. It starts as a color of mourning, but then it is just her identifying color. Early on, John and I decided that every time that we saw Glinda, she would be in a different outfit. It speaks to what has been important for her. We did custom embroidery realized in multiple silhouettes. They lean into kind of a 1950s Dior feel.
It's good to see me, isn't it?
When you look at Munchkinland, we see her in the pink bubble dress, her most iconic look. The amazing dressmaker for Glinda, he went about approaching it from the Fibonacci spiral and creating shapes, using that as a springboard, and then evolving that into the dress that we have now.
If there are no further questions, I'm gonna go.
And also within that world, the texture of those buildings, the stucco and the thatched roofs and the overall silhouette of those homes, I was reflecting that in the silhouettes of the people and the textures of their clothing and the kind of fabrics that they were using and the shapes of the hats. The same with deco and how that relates to the world of Emerald City, because it has a more technical kind of clockwork quality.
The wizard will see you now!
And Elphaba, when she goes to meet the wizard, there's a dress that she chooses to wear, and it's made of micro-pleated fabric. It creates this undulation of movement. It tells the story of her holding to how she sees herself. We have within our workshop probably 150 artisans that have been a part of creating this world so that we can get the most original look that we possibly can. The reason I'm here is to create the visual for how to tell this story, how to present this point of view. And that's a beautiful position to be in.